Chairman of the Committee on Finance is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Majority Leader, distinguished colleagues. Last March 14 was not a regular session day. It was actually a Saturday. But our esteemed leader, Senate President Vicente Soto III, called us to session, and the chamber labored for several hours, burning the landmark to Heal as One Act, or Republic Act 11496. Our colleagues, led by the Senate President and the principal sponsor, Senator Pia Cayetano, worked together to pass, as mentioned, the Bayanihan law. Every week since then, the Office of the President has reported to the Senate and the House of Representatives through the Oversight Committee on the implementation of this law. Our hardworking sponsor, Senator Pia, has repeatedly solicited our comments every week and diligently reported them back to the executive branch with our comments. I thank them, as well as Senator Amy Marcos, the chair of the Committee on Economic Affairs, who led a committee hearing last week, as well as the authors of various measures, no less than our majority leader, Senator Miguel Zubiri, our Senate President pro tempore, Senator Ralph Recto, as well as other senators. Their good work has enabled our authorities to respond to the pandemic and to assist millions of Filipinos in coping with the resulting hardship from COVID-19. Just as it was with the first Bayanihan Act, this measure grants to the President the necessary flexibility to realign budgets from the different agencies and direct these funds towards the country's COVID-19 response. There are also still the emergency subsidies for low-income households, especially the ones that did not receive any assistance in previous months. We will also continue ongoing wage subsidy programs, making sure that freelancers, the self-employed, those from the informal sector, the repatriated overseas Filipino workers or OFWs, and workers in various industries, tourism, construction, public transportation, trades, films, audiovisual workers, and others from the creative industries are included. There is assistance in private, especially part-time teachers, as well as tuition subsidies for students who are facing financial difficulties. This is an amendment of our educational advocates, Senators Joel Villanueva and Senator Win Gatchalian. The Land Bank of the Philippines, the Development Bank of the Philippines, the Social Security System, and the Government Service Insurance System, or GSIS, will also provide loans, subsidies, discounts, or even grants for purchasing necessary gadgets like laptops, tablets, and smartphones, given the expected shift to blended learning. These same government financial institutions, or GFIs, will also come up with similar loan programs to schools and universities for transitioning to online modes of teaching. The 30-day grace period without incurring interest or penalties is also here present in this proposed law, where all banks, quasi-banks, and other financial institutions, public and private, will be directed to implement a minimum 30-day grace period on the payment of loans in areas that are still under expanded community quarantine, ECQ, or modified expanded community quarantine, MECQ, without incurring interest, interest on interest, penalties, or other charges. The same applies to utility companies for electricity, water, and telecommunications, also for residential rents. To add to the decisive moves of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, we are mandating various GFIs and government corporations to provide loans and credit, preferably with concessional interest, to MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises, the self-employed, and enterprises in tourism, agri-fisheries, and other businesses. As a stimulus to our construction industry, the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, or DSUD, is directed to one, fast-track the approval of all pending and new applications for housing loans, permits, and licenses, prioritize critically impacted home buyers who may want to shift from private bank financing to Pag-ibig, and third, to waive any fines and penalties that may cause delay in the delivery of housing units to buyers. We're also directing the BSP to allow banks to reallocate any unutilized funds to housing loans and take steps so that borrowers gain access to cheaper home loans. This was suggested by our colleague, Senator Cynthia Villar. We're also providing assistance to the Department of Agriculture's Plant program enabling them to provide extension support, financial subsidies, and other forms of assistance to agri-fishery enterprises, farmers, and fisherfolk. This was provided by our colleague, Senator Amy Marcos. To make sure that these programs and policy directives are well supported, we are establishing a standby fund worth approximately 230 billion, which will be appropriated for the following purposes. 25 billion is for emergency subsidy to workers in critically impacted sectors and industries, as well as cash for work programs and the DOLES Tupad. There is 50 billion as an infusion to capital, the Land Bank of the Philippines, the Development Bank of the Philippines, and Phil Guarantee. This is for the purpose of providing credit to distressed enterprises. There is also 30 billion for the DOH or Department of Health for programs on the prevention and control of infectious diseases, as well as COVID-19, including the much demanded mass testing. There is another 50 billion for programs and projects in support of health workers, displaced OFWs, teachers and non-teaching personnel, part-time faculty, and employees and workers in public transport, tourism, and other critically impacted industries, both in the formal and informal sectors. There's approximately 40 billion to provide assistance to our agricultural sector, to qualified agri-fishery enterprises, farmers, and fisherfolk, to finance the DA's Plant program, again proposed by Senators Marcos and Recto. There is also a 35 billion fund for the DOTR to assist critically impacted public transportation service providers, as well as for the DOT or Department of Tourism to assist ailing enterprises in the tourism, which are among the most highly impacted industries. Mr. President, only through concerted action able to overcome of this. This measure is an attempt to rally not just the government, but the rest of our country during these difficult times. We are thankful for the many contributions of our colleagues. We've had 2 rounds of a back and forth with our fellow senators to be able to accommodate their, as much as possible, we've tried to accommodate their amendments. And we also thank our co-workers in the executive branch for coming back to us with their responses and review or comments on the various provisions, and many of them are here. We thank them for being here today on short notice. To our resource persons, Kadim, all who contribute to the crafting of the bill. We look forward to coming up with an improved measure after some debate and exchange with our esteemed colleagues. Mr. President, I end this point with great Martin Luther King. He said in 1968, we must accept finite disappointment, but we must never lose infinite hope. Efforts today, we hope to provide hope to all of our countrymen. Difficulty during these very trying times. Pagpalain po sana tayo ng Diyos. God bless and mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Thank you, Mr. President.